Kidsville. Wow, I haven't been here in ages. I've been missing you guys, and I thought I'd just pop in and come and be a friend and give you a lesson this week. I hope that's going to be okay. You please need to just say hi to us in the comments below. We get so lonely when we don't see your lovely faces and can't give you like a hello elbow. So come on over, go to the comments, just give us a wavy hand or say hi. Tell us that you're there. It could be so awesome. Okay, so we're going to do something a bit differently today because we can. So while you're watching at home, get nice and comfortable. Okay, alright, let's go. We're ready for the story. I'm going to tell you a little story about Moses. I'm sure you recognize that name. So, let me read it to you. It says, God's people, who were called the Israelites, they'd been slaves in Egypt for hundreds and hundreds of years, even longer than what we've been in lockdown. Now, they were finally free to leave and to go make a home in their very own land. Gosh, I can only imagine they must have been so excited. So God had chosen Moses to be their leader. So they packed everything up and they followed Moses out of Egypt. Moses always knew which way to go. He didn't have a GPS, he didn't have a map, but God put a big, tall pillar of cloud in front of them to point the way. Imagine following a cloud when you're driving down the road these days. Gosh, it must have been a special cloud. At night, because they couldn't see the cloud, they would follow a big, tall pillar of fire. They never got lost because God always showed them the correct way to go. Eventually, the pillar stopped by the water that was called the Red Sea. The Israelites set up camp by the water and they waited for God to do the next thing. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the Pharaoh, he was the guy in charge, and his officials began thinking about how all the Israelites left. And God had proven, when he sent the 10 plagues, that God was even more powerful than the king of Egypt and of all the Egyptian gods. At that time, Pharaoh and the people had told the Israelites that they should leave Egypt. But now, they were having second thoughts. If all the slaves left Egypt, then who was going to do the work? Suddenly they didn't think that this was such a good idea. So Pharaoh decided to chase after the Israelites and make them come back. He sent all of his horses and chariots and the horsemen and the troops. He must have thought that no one would be able to stop this army. Can you imagine when God's people saw them coming over the hills? They must have been terrified. There was nowhere to go. The army was coming this way. They were camped here. And the sea was standing behind them. Where on earth were they going to go? They complained to their leader Moses. They said, why did you lead us out of Egypt and into the desert to die? We would have been better off staying in Egypt. But Moses said to them, guys, don't be afraid. Stand firm and you will see how God will save you today. Wow. I think he had a lot of faith. The Egyptians can never win because God will fight for you, is what Moses told them. Now amazing things began to happen right before their very eyes. The people had thought that they were trapped because of the water and because of the army, but they were about to see what God could do, and that he is so powerful. An angel of God had been traveling in front of the Israelites, and he moved back behind them along with a pillar of cloud. The cloud blocked the view of the Egyptians, And they could only see night and darkness. Imagine the Egyptian army coming along and then suddenly they can't see where they're going. Gosh, I think they must have got quite a fright. But that cloud provided light for God's people so that they could see everything. They could see the Red Sea that was in front of them, and they wished that they could get across the sea to some kind of safety. Have you ever been standing at the beach with the sea in front of you and going, oh, I wish I could just get over the sea to the other side? But you can't walk through the sea. I get my toes in and I go, ooh, it's cold. Imagine walking in. Good heavens. But at God's command, Moses stretched out this big staff. And a staff is like a big rod. And he put the big staff over the water. And the water began to change. A strong gust of wind blew up. And suddenly there were these two big walls of water on the side. And dry land down the middle. Can you imagine? Water, land, water. Bizarre. But God had provided a way to cross the sea to the other side. Now imagine, the army is standing behind you, and you've got this pathway through. You don't have much option but to go through the pathway. So they decided to go through. Imagine walking through two big walls of water on the side of you. When the Egyptians saw the dry land, the pathway, they decided to follow the Israelites. But do you think that they caught them? Haha, no way. Strange things began to happen again. The wheels of their chariots started to fall off. And it became difficult to drive. Imagine, it must have been a bit muddy as well, but thick. You know what it's like with sea sand, with beach sand? It's quite thick. You're able to run on. It's hard. By the time the Egyptians realized that God was fighting against them, it was too late. God was on the Israelites' side. Now that the Israelites were all safely on the other side, God told Moses to stretch his staff, remember that's like a big rod, over the water again. Soon all of the Egyptian army was drowned by the water. Oh my goodness. The Israelites were so happy that God had saved them from their enemies. What a relief! And what an amazing thing to watch. I'm sure they must have started singing the one song that we love to sing. It goes, my God is so big and so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do. I can imagine them doing that on the other side of the beach, singing and singing. There's nothing that my God cannot do. And that, guys, is the big idea that we can take away from this story, that there's nothing that is too big that God cannot do. God can do all things. He's amazing. So you need to just trust God, and He will do all things. So guys, as we wrap up for the day, I think the important thing here is that you just take away from the story is that if God loves you and you trust Him, He'll lead you. He'll show you the way, and He will do all things. So I'm going to say goodbye because I think my coffee is getting cold and I need to pop up and go and probably pop it in the microwave again. I don't think they had microwaves in those days. I wonder what they did. But I'm glad I've got a microwave. So I'm going to go and get my coffee, and I want you guys to remember to comment below and tell me that you've been watching, that you're saying hi. Tell me what's going on. I'd love to hear, because we don't get to hear from you at the moment. So say hi and make sure that you come back next week and we'll tell you another story of the amazing things that God can do. Bye guys.